of all, what I would like to say is nearshoring is not anymore about only proximity, is not only about time zone, and it's not only about aligning geopolitical visions. What is going to happen to Latin America? And all that stuff that we were, working on for nearshoring the Americas, right, in the Latin America region specifically. I was leading the implementation of the nearshoring policies for the Inter-American Development Bank for different countries in Latin America. And I remember that when we were doing this, that was during pandemic, we were forecasting a lot of gains for the different countries that we have mentioned here. And so what happened today? What is the challenge? Because right now, if we see this solid slide, we see, well, maybe Latin America is in troubles right now, right? Not only because everything that is happening there, geopolitically speaking, but also because many of the investments, projects are redirecting and relocating to the US. So what is the opportunity that Latin America has? Latin America now can be seen as the main logistics platform for this specific trend, right? How is that? How is going to happen? Well, basically, as industries return to the US, LATAM becomes the main logistics and distribution partner for all the reasons that I have already mentioned. Because of the time zone, because of the proximity, but mainly because most of the countries have this little thing that we mentioned today, that is rule of law, right, first of all. And second, because most of the countries, not all of them, of course, we have discussed this previously, have, geopolitical alignment with the US government right now. Also, what is happening with the trade stakeholders in the region? Okay, first of all, we see free trade zones, ports, and multimodal hub across LATAM are evolving into integrated logistics corridors. I mean, it used to be isolated stakeholders, but they are now realizing that definitely they have to be integrated logistics stakeholders, where competitive ports, connected hinterlands, and coordinated governance, are relying on all these policies to become the best stakeholders for North America. And the other thing, right now what we have, identified is that definitely Latin America needs to upgrade all these specific, stakeholders in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of connectivity, bringing what? Bringing opportunities, of course, for American, US companies that would like to participate on this upgrading that definitely the region is, undertaking right now. Let's consider Latin America as the biggest hub of talent for the United States. Okay? Why? You just saw what happened with the H-1 visa that we have already mentioned here in different other panels, right? With this, what is going to happen? We're pushing the need for higher labor costs in the US, the right companies to keep relying on LATAM-based professionals. Okay, what does mean as well as a big window of opportunity. According to a recent report from Deal the platform that all of you know, Argentina, Colombia, and Brazil were among the top countries in the world in the region to remote hire talent in 2023. And it is going to keep happening even more now with what happened with the recent announcements on the visas scheme. What is the role of Florida and, of course, of Miami in this equation? Well, first of all, most of us know that Miami is considered the capital of Latin America. So there are tremendous opportunities for different companies that are operating from Florida, specifically from Miami. Miami has a reach, no doubt, with 1,200 multinationals already established in Miami, almost 12K logistics facilities. Florida consolidates its position as the gateway connecting U.S. production with Latin American operations. Welcome. And basically what I want to ask you first is, no doubt, supply chains are now, witnessing and having all type of disruptions, right? Is it something that is here to stay? And from your point of view as a logistics and supply chain expert, how to manage and how to handle these disruptions that are here to stay.
We must look at our supply chain, we must define the supply chain, and it's the moment to, as talk in MIT, where we course our MicroMaster in supply chain, is the right moment to reformulate the dynamics of our supply chain. And it's the right moment between the partnership between the Americas and Latin America to have a reliable supply chain, a complex supply chain, because complexity is a good thing if it's controlled. If you embrace complexity in supply chain, you embrace profitability. We will not have any more simple supply chain. We will always have more complex supply chain. But one thing is important. There's 5 drivers in the supply chain: the numerosity, the diversity, the bullwhip effect that we must avoid, and then we have the opacity and the interconnection interactions. If you dominate these drivers in your complex supply chain, you will have the competitive advantage. Remember, companies do not compete anymore. It's the right supply chain where you are part of that supply chain, your company is part of the supply chain, that make the competitive advantage, long-lasting competitive advantage. A lot of American companies usually, since a few years ago, make a very traditional logistics by sending their products directly to the end markets. And this was the scheme that used to work. For example, from the United States, or companies of the United States abroad sell directly to the end markets. This supply chain was a very simple one, not complex one. And we say, if you have a very simple supply chain, you will have problems because it will become complex and with no control. What we're proposing in the nearshoring is actually a new nearshoring. This is actually the products produced in America, gets into a free trade zone hub. The American companies send it to a free trade zone hub, let's say Uruguay, for example, where we have 13 free zones, where we have 100 years of free zones traditions, to give you an idea, so we have quite a track record, and to centralize the inventory in this country and centralize it as raw as possible, vanilla as possible, make a postponement, a customization of those inventory, and then send it agile as speed to market to the different countries in a few days you can prepare the stock. The good thing about this inventory over here is that you will have less than 50% of the needed stock if you send it directly to the end markets, which is the type of commercial modes we're using. Of course, we go to the points of sales, but also we have a lot of e-commerce cross-border, which is the most rapidly type of commerce increasing. So from the free trade zones also you can make e-commerce cross-border into the region. So the free trade zone hubs is a whole opportunity for the new nearshore of American companies into the region. And remember, you will have 50% less inventory if you centralize your inventory. To have an inventory, the cost of having an inventory is like if you ask for a loan in dollars, and the tax rate is, and the interest rate, is 25% in dollars. That's the interest rate of the stock of the inventory. So if we don't turn the inventories, you will have a problem.
If you were to choose 2 or 3 countries where you can definitely trust to have, supply chain partners and at the same time nearshoring partners, which ones would you choose and why?
In Central America, you have today like partner of choice, like Panama for sure. Guatemala is also doing a good business, and also you have, for example, Costa Rica, which is also a winner. Each of them has their value proposal, so each of them should be mapped as well. Also, El Salvador, has a tradition in industrial park for textile. So I think also today Central America, you have several partners of choice depending on the type of industry or services you're looking for. And in the case of the South Cone, Uruguay is the unique country with a very stable, free trade zone regime that is guaranteed actually by the state. So if you make an investment, actually our state, the Uruguayan state, is guarantees it.